What if Satoru Gojo was reborn as a child with all his memories intact? We're talking about the strongest sorcerer in history, sent back to age 5 with knowledge of every battle, every loss, and every mistake. Today, we're breaking down how this would completely rewrite Jujutsu Kaisen's timeline. Let's dive in. To truly understand the impact of this what if, we need to start at the very beginning. Imagine a young Satoru Gojo, maybe 5 or 6 years old, in the heart of the Gojo clan. This isn't the arrogant, carefree Gojo we know from his teenage years. This is a child who has just witnessed the horrors of Shibuya, the death of his best friend, and his own sealing. The trauma alone would be immense. The Gojo clan, already in awe of the first child in 400 years to possess both the 6 eyes and the limitless, would be confronted with a child who is unnervingly mature, a child who looks at them with eyes that have seen the end of the world. His training would be a completely different story. He wouldn't be learning his techniques, he'd be perfecting them. Reverse curse technique, which he originally learned after a near-death experience against Toji Fushiguro, would be something he could master from day one. His domain expansion, unlimited void, could be perfected before he even hits his teenage years. But here's the thing. The psychological burden of this knowledge would be crushing. Think about it. Gojo's original childhood was already marked by intense loneliness. The creator, Gege Akutami, revealed that Gojo even ran away from home during his youth. He was isolated by his power, by the expectations placed upon him, and by the sheer impossibility of anyone truly understanding him. Now, multiply that loneliness by 1,000. He would have memories of adult relationships, of deep bonds with Geto, of mentoring students, all while being trapped in a child's body, surrounded by people who can't comprehend his experiences. This would create a being of unprecedented power. Yes, but also unprecedented psychological complexity. A Gojo who is not just a prodigy, but a true god in a child's body, carrying the weight of a future that hasn't happened yet. His relationship with his clan, which was already strained, would become even more complex. Would they see him as their pride and joy, or as a monster they can't control? And more importantly, would young Gojo even want to engage with them, knowing how little they truly mattered in the grand scheme of his original timeline? Let's talk about the power scaling implications, because this is where things get absolutely insane. In the original timeline, Gojo's awakening happened at around age 17, during his second fight with Toji. That moment, when he was on the brink of death, unlocked reverse cursed technique and elevated him to a level where he could truly be called the strongest. But with his memories intact from childhood, that awakening would happen immediately. He would understand the fundamental principles of cursed energy manipulation at a level that took him years to achieve. The 6 eyes, which already grant him perfect cursed energy perception and efficiency, would be utilized to their absolute maximum potential from birth. We're talking about a Gojo who could theoretically develop domain expansion by age 10 or 12. A Gojo who could master techniques like blue, red, and purple before he even enters Jujutsu High. The implications of this are staggering. In the original timeline, Gojo's birth shifted the balance of power in the Jujutsu world. Cursed spirits became more aggressive, and the entire ecosystem changed. But a Gojo who is actively training and perfecting god-tier techniques as a child, the world wouldn't just shift, it would be completely rewritten. He could potentially develop entirely new applications of the limitless technique, things we've never seen in the manga or anime, simply because he has decades of extra time to experiment and refine his abilities. But there's a darker side to this accelerated development. Power without challenge can lead to stagnation. One of the reasons Gojo became so strong in the original timeline was because he faced genuine threats. Toji pushed him to the brink. The special grade curses challenged him. Even the prison realm, in a twisted way, was a test. If a reborn Gojo never faces true adversity, would he reach the same heights? Or would he plateau, becoming a god who is powerful but ultimately unchallenged and unfulfilled? Now, let's get to the heart of the matter. The single most important change that a reborn Gojo would make: saving Suguru Geto. Gojo's greatest regret was losing his one and only best friend. With his memories, he would know exactly where things went wrong. The Riko Amanai incident was the turning point. The failure to protect her, the realization that even the strongest couldn't save everyone, shattered Geto's worldview. He began to see non-sorcerers as weak, as parasites that sorcerers had to protect at the cost of their own lives. This ideology eventually led him to commit mass murder and become a curse user. Gojo, with his future knowledge, would not let this happen. He would be prepared for Toji Fushiguro. The sorcerer killer would be facing a Gojo who has already experienced defeat at his hands and has mastered the techniques to counter him. The fight wouldn't be a desperate struggle for survival. It would be a calculated execution. Gojo would save Riko, prevent the trauma that broke Geto, and fundamentally alter the trajectory of both their lives. But saving Riko is only the first step. Gojo would also have to save Geto from his own despair. Even if Riko survives, Geto's fundamental disillusionment with the Jujutsu world might still fester. Gojo would need to have the conversations they never had. He would need to share the burden of being the strongest, to show Geto that there is another way to change the world. He could prevent the massacre of the village, the event that sealed Geto's fate. The unbreakable duo would remain unbreakable, and here's where the ripple effects become truly profound. Geto's defection was a catalyst for so much of what happened in Jujutsu Kaisen. Without Geto becoming a curse user, there is no Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Yuta Okotsu's story would be completely different. Without Geto's body for Kenjaku to possess, the entire Shibuya incident and the Culling game would need to be reconceived. Geto's salvation doesn't just save one person, it potentially saves thousands. With Geto by his side, and with his own god-tier power, Gojo would become a force that could rewrite the future. The Shibuya incident, the darkest chapter in Jujutsu Kaisen's history, would never happen. Gojo would know everything about Kenjaku's plan. He would know about the prison realm and the emotional manipulation of seeing Geto's body. Kenjaku's 1,000-year plan would be dismantled before it even begins. But how would Gojo actually stop Kenjaku? This is where the analytical side of this theory gets really interesting. Kenjaku is an ancient sorcerer who has been body hopping for over a millennium. He's patient, cunning, and has contingency plans upon contingency plans. A direct confrontation might not be the answer. Instead, Gojo would need to play the long game. He could use his knowledge of Kenjaku's past vessels, his alliances, and his ultimate goal to systematically dismantle his network. He could expose Kenjaku to the Jujutsu authorities, or even better, reform those authorities so they're actually competent enough to deal with threats like him. With Kenjaku neutralized, the lives of countless people, both sorcerers and civilians, would be saved. Nanami, the overworked salaryman turned sorcerer, would live to see a peaceful retirement. Nobara would never face Mahito's twisted, cursed technique. The students of Jujutsu High would never have to experience the horrors of that night. The Culling game, Kenjaku's twisted battle royale, would be a non-issue. The entire plot of the latter half of Jujutsu Kaisen would be completely averted. But this raises a fascinating question. What would the story be about then? With no major villains to fight, what would be the focus of the Jujutsu world? And this is where Gojo's true vision comes into play. Gojo's dream was never just about being the strongest. It was about reforming the corrupt and stagnant Jujutsu world. With his memories and his unparalleled power, he could finally achieve this. The higher-ups of the Jujutsu world are a relic of a bygone era. They're obsessed with tradition, with maintaining the status quo, and with eliminating anything they perceive as a threat to their power. They ordered the execution of Yuta Okotsu, a traumatized teenager. They ordered the execution of Yuji Itadori, a kid who was just trying to help. They're the real villains of Jujutsu Kaisen, and Gojo knows it. With his memories, Gojo would have the knowledge and the leverage to expose their corruption. He could gather evidence of their failures, their complicity in the suffering of sorcerers, and their willingness to sacrifice the innocent for their own gain. He could challenge their authority, not with brute force, but with undeniable proof. And with Geto by his side, along with other powerful allies he could cultivate over the years, he could create a new Jujutsu High, one that fosters collaboration, compassion, and true strength, not just blind obedience to tradition. His students, Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara, would grow up in a completely different world. They would be trained by a Gojo, who is not just a powerful teacher, but a wise mentor who knows their full potential. Yuji would never have to face the threat of execution. He could be properly trained to control Sukuna, or better yet, Gojo could find a way to extract Sukuna without killing Yuji. Megumi would be free from the clutches of the Zenin clan and their toxic traditions. Nobara would have the chance to become a powerful sorcerer without the shadow of death constantly looming over her. This is the world Gojo truly wanted to create, and with his rebirth, he could actually make it happen. But here's the twist. A world with a perfect, all-knowing Gojo might not be the utopia we imagine. Power, especially absolute power, has a way of corrupting, and knowledge, especially foreknowledge, can be a curse in itself. Would a Gojo who has never known true failure, who has always been 10 steps ahead of everyone else, become a benevolent dictator? His immense power and knowledge could create an unbridgeable gap between him and everyone else. The very loneliness he sought to escape could become his eternal prison. By changing the timeline so drastically, he would also be erasing the experiences that shape the people he loves. Think about it. Would his students be as strong, as resilient, if they never had to face true adversity? Yuji's compassion was forged in the fires of Shibuya. Megumi's determination was tested by countless life or death battles. Nobara's fierce independence was a product of her struggles. If Gojo removes all obstacles, does he also remove the very things that make them who they are? Would Geto's salvation come at the cost of his own identity? The Geto who defected was shaped by his experiences, both good and bad. A Geto who never faces that darkness might be a different person entirely. This is the ultimate paradox of Gojo's rebirth. In his quest to save everyone, he might inadvertently create a world that is safe, but also sterile. A world where the human spirit is never truly tested. A world where growth comes not from overcoming challenges, but from being sheltered from them. And in that world, Satoru Gojo, the man who wanted to be surrounded by strong allies who could stand beside him as equals, might find himself once again truly alone at the top, with no one who can truly understand the weight of his knowledge and the burden of his power. There's also the question of free will and determinism. If Gojo knows the future and actively changes it, is he respecting the agency of others? Or is he playing God, deciding what's best for everyone without their input? It's a philosophical minefield, and it's what makes this what if so compelling. It's not just about power. It's about responsibility, loneliness, and the unintended consequences of trying to create a perfect world. So, what do you think? Would a reborn Gojo be the savior of the Jujutsu world, or would his perfect knowledge lead to a different kind of tragedy? Would he create a utopia or a gilded cage? Let me know your theories in the comments below. This is one of the most fascinating what-ifs in all of anime, and I want to hear all your thoughts. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll be breaking down even more insane anime theories. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.